Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adobe Live, and welcome to episode number 2 of Magic in Photoshop. I'm super excited for this one because we are getting into one of my favorite things in Photoshop. We all know I love glow. I have named myself the Glow Queen. So it's a perfect time for us to finally just dive into how I create all of these things in Photoshop. But first, I want to welcome all of you watching on Behance and YouTube, wherever you are tuning in from. Thank you so much for being here with me today and for being here on my new show. I think we should just get started in Photoshop because we have a lot to go over today and I don't want to waste any time in the intros. So let's just get started. All right, so you may all know this image. It's one that I have been using and creating for years. And one of my favorites, you've probably seen it on my Instagram, my website, everywhere. We turned it into a video. We've had so much fun with this image. And today we're going to break it all down. So let's just see here. First, we have, this is what we're going to be creating at the very end. And then you can see, I'm going to turn that off. This was what I created the other night when I did it to just kind of refresh everything. So you can see it's a little bit different, but we're going to be going through all the steps of getting here. And then this is what it looks like when I first took the image. So I love this because it's a full day to night image, kind of sunset, maybe not full day, but you get the idea. And this was taken in white sands, and I was kind of going for this abducted by a UFO, then dropped off in the middle of the desert look. And so we can just dive right into it. The first thing that I want to do is just copy our original layer here. And then we're going to use a little bit of, we're in Photoshop beta, by the way, so we're going to use a little bit of Generative Fill to get rid of some of these footprints right off the bat because we don't want any of those. And when I first created this image, it took me so long to get rid of these footprints. I had to go through and clone stamp, but because of the lines in the sand, it just did not work. So we can either use our new handy dandy remove tool or we can go in and generative fill. So let's use both to check it out and see how it works. This is the remove tool is located right over here underneath your spot healing brush tool. And let's just make sure we are on that. And then we're going to just start brushing out this footprint. So let's see how it goes. Most of our time it's going to be waiting today, just like the other week when you guys saw me stream, and I was just spending a lot of time waiting for Generative Fill to work. So that did a pretty good job. You'll see what I did before when I show you, but we can just go through and brush these out. So that's pretty good on these areas. And really, if you're going to just take your time with this, that's going to be your best bet because then you can take every little detail out, make sure you don't get any weird things like that going on. But for the sake of the stream, we'll just move a little bit faster. So then you could go through and paint all these out as well. See how that does. I don't know, that one's not as good, so we'll undo that, and then we will use our lasso tool to just go in and select some of this and try to generate it back in. So when I did this the other night, it takes a while, so especially when you want to get it looking really good. So we won't go through every little detail, but this will be a good start. And we wait and we wait. Yeah, much better. Let's just zoom in and take a look at that. That looks so good. I can't believe how good the sand is. I mean, like, you could get nitpicky with it. Not the exact same texture, but who is zooming in that close on our images? We just want to make this look really nice and clean. So of course we get our other options here, but it's sand, so it doesn't really matter that much. So we can go through and clean this all up and just select these different areas and just go ahead and then generate. I already took the time to do all this, and here is the result. So we won't waste any time with our generative fill on that aspect. We'll get into a little bit more later on because I know we all love it so much right now. But you can see before, and let's just even turn this off. So we got our before and our after. Like, amazing how quickly you were able to do that. And even with me just jumping ahead, you could see like a couple little clicks here, and we get rid of all of the sand footprints. We want to make it look like I am isolated and alone in the desert. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of that. We don't need that so that we are nice and clean here. And then next, we want to add in this cool alien UFO sky with thunderstorm, lots of fun things going on here. I got this on Adobe stock, and then I just added a camera raw filter. So we can, because that is a smart object, we can go in and click on it and look at what I did, which is really nice. You're going to be able to go back in time here and continue to edit. So I like to just always add a little bit of pink and blue. You all know I love that. I mentioned it last week too, right? And we can just kind of get this looking exactly how we want. Let's see. I even amped it up a little bit more this time. I think I like that more. That's like I said, every time I create something, it ends up being so different, and that's really fun. So then I just layer mask this out here, and I just did that using channels, and I'm not going to get into that on this stream because I really want to get into creating the glow here. But if you were to do that, I can just show you quickly. We would just go to channels, and then you just want to find the channel that has the most contrast. So you can see here, I already did it. And in this case, it would be red. And then we go Command L to open up levels, and we're basically just making a layer mask through using channels. And again, I don't want to get into that too far and do the whole thing. You've seen me do this before on live streams, and I will do it again over the course of this class of magic in Photoshop as we get into a little bit more detailed areas in certain things. Okay, so you can see you end up creating this layer mask like that, and then would copy it into your layers. Right, so we have our nice cutout here, and we're going to start to add some color adjustment to this, because what we want to do is start to ultimately create this night scene. We have our background in here with our new sky, and now we need to get everything to match. So we will first start by adding let's see, do we want to add color balance or curves? Looks like before I did color balance, so we'll start with that. And I just want to turn this like a little more blue and magenta. So that's pretty good. That's usually how I start most of my night scenes, to try to get the color looking correct and then start to darken it even more. And you may have heard me talk other times on live streams where when you're taking your photos out in the world and you're knowing that you're going to use this for a composite, the more you can match your lighting or your coloring or anything that's going to be in the final image, the easier of a time you're going to have. For this one, clearly I did not have that in mind, and that's where Photoshop comes in to start to give you these perfect little edits that make our photos even more amazing. Okay, so we got our color balance, and now let's add some curves. And usually for these night photos, what I want to do is just start to bring it down. And in this case, we're just going to start by really darkening up those mountains. And just want to go not too much. I like to kind of slowly build this out. So that should be good. We can come back to it. That's the beauty of it being editable. And then we are going to go with a nice big round brush with a low flow and just start to paint out this area down here where all of our glow is going to be. And let's just zoom out on that. And that looks pretty good. We can cross-reference it with the curves we did before. You can see I went a lot lighter before, and now I'm going a lot darker. So I like to, if I am ever editing a photo again from scratch, I always like to just kind of cross-reference what I did and then redo it again. Same with live streams. It's makes it easier that way. Okay, so that is good for our curves and our color balance. Just kind of start to create that light switching back and forth between our black and white, hitting the X key on our keyboard to make sure that we kind of have our mood set here. And we start to get that nighttime look, but it's not quite there yet. It's still kind of weird. So the more we continue to color grade, the more we're going to have a really good look. Okay, so then I started to create my base glow here, and we will do that from scratch using, we're going to go new layer, make sure that it's clipped below. We want everything clipped on this layer to make sure that we're working specifically on our desert scene and not on our sky. And then we're just going to change it to color dodge. And you want to double click on this to bring up layer style and then click transparency shapes layers. I don't know why this works. I've talked about this many, many times, but it makes your glow actually glow and not look like a weird color smudge. So we're going to pick our wonderful blue color that I use for everything. You all know I love it. And then just start to lightly paint some of our initial glow here. So you want to usually use a pretty low flow. I like to do that. I don't know where this glow spot came from that's already on there. And that might even be too much. Like it's so subtle in the beginning. You just want to start with like 5%. And I'm just using a mouse. If you're using a tablet, I almost forgot what the word was for a second. If you're using a tablet, then this will be so easy. You can just go in and continue to change the size of your brush, continue to paint. And when we get to the actual glow part where we're painting on my body here, that's going to be really, really helpful if you have a tablet. I just used my iPad connected to my computer and it was a game changer. So you can see, yeah, I started to kind of just, the idea is we're going to have these lines that are like cyborg lines along my body that are going to be emitting glow from within. So we want to kind of start to create the look in the sand. See how different this one turns out. Always so fun to see. I've done this image now like so many times. And I'm like, what will it be next time? Okay, so we'll add another layer, and again, we can color dodge, and you could just continue to copy your layers too if you don't want to do this each time, or set an action for yourself. I just go in and do it because it's like memory, force of habit now at this point. And then we're just going to brighten this even more. But we don't want to go too much. It's always a fine line. The too much or too little, always struggling with that in life too, right? A little bit on the dress, little on the face here. Just an overall. And pick it out a little. That's pretty good. We can go back and do the original one too if we need to. Then we're going to add another curves adjustment and then a brightening one. So let's just go ahead and do that again. So this time we want to really darken things up. Again, not too much, not too little. Where's that balance? Where is that balance? All right. So we have our brush. And we're going to just kind of brush this out here. And again, playing with that flow to start to create your atmosphere. The more you're kind of building this slowly and blending, I always like to think of when I'm in Photoshop as if I'm working on a painting. Coming from a art background, I just have that kind of like ingrained in me. But also you can think of it in so many different ways. If you're into makeup and you're used to blending eyeshadow, if you anything where you blend. I'm trying to think of other examples. Like that's how I like to use Photoshop and use these tools within Photoshop rather than just like putting in a formula and a straight line or something. I always like to blend the areas that I'm working on, and then that's the secret sauce to how I make my images look the way they do. Don't tell anyone. Okay, so you can see on this first one, I did very dark, and yeah, we'll add a little bit more back. So just switch back to white here to darken that up a little bit more. And again, we can go back in and fix that at any time. So now we're going to add another curves, and you can use levels, you can use brightness. I don't care. Whatever you want, wherever you feel comfortable, that is great. I have just become a creature of habit, and I love to use curves for everything because it's so powerful. Not only can you control your brightness and darkness and have this full highlight, midtone, shadow range, and here of really being able to set your control, you also have colors. So sometimes I will do my full color grading in curves. I mean, that looks really cool. Just kind of bringing that down into the cyan. But sometimes I don't, it depends. I like to also use color balance, as you've seen. And then, as many of you know, I like to use camera raw at the end. And I love that. I mean, hey, let's just make it crazy. Let's make something totally new and go wild with it. Now I'm like very interested in playing. I'm going to have to do that after this stream to see what else I can do with this. But I don't want to get into doing that too much in this part, but we might need to do that for the next layer because that could be kind of cool. I want to make sure we cover everything first. So I'm getting very carried away. Okay, so we're just going to brighten this now, and just trying to see here. Maybe adding a little bit of contrast. And we're mainly going to focus this brightness like on the body, but not too much. 1 second. Okay. Now, using a black brush, just switch back there. We're gonna just actually let's invert this. So Command I inverts your curves layer, and then we'll paint with white to bring this back in. That's pretty good. We don't need to have it be perfect because we're just trying to make this area stand out a little bit more. And continue to adjust that flow. And I didn't even mention in the beginning of the stream that the stream is called Glow with the Flow. So that's why I named it that. And that's why we use so much flow in when you're making glow. Sorry, it's so corny. Because it's really how you build the layers. That's the key. So let's just check that before and after. So before and after, just a touch more of light coming back into this image. And I remember when I first made this photo, I think it must have taken me like 3 days or something. Can't remember. I spent so much time on it because I was also trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted it to look like, what I wanted the meaning to be, how I wanted to do the cyborg arms and everything. So it took a long time. So there's what we had before, and there is our new one. It's a little bit brighter. We might want to just, I know before I had darkened a little bit here so we don't get too much bouncing off the dress. Okay, so next, I don't want you to all see that yet. That's okay. Little preview of what's to come. I'm going to turn all of these off because I want to start slowly adding them and show you what I did. So this is kind of what we're going to start to go for here. I think we have a pretty good base laid down, and now we're going to start to create these lines. And let's see. So we'll make a new layer. And then we're going to go to our pen tool. Actually, first, let's set our brush so that that's ready to go. We want to turn our brush all the way up to hard, bring the flow up, and then we want to kind of, let's just zoom in a little bit more and then set the size so that it's kind of around where we'd want those lines to look. Maybe a little smaller, that's pretty good. And we want to set that to black. Now we can go to our pen tool and we're going to start to create these lines. I'm just going to do a couple so we get the idea, then drop in those other black lines that I already previously made and then start to add in the flow. So we'll just click on one point and then click on the other point of the leg and then arch that up by pulling down with our mouse. Yes, I know you are all probably so proud of me for finally using the pen tool. I know we have a nice little running joke that I don't like to use it, but I'm getting so advanced in the world. Okay, so now we are going to go to make stroke path. See, like what am I doing? Brush and then click OK. So that's perfect. Now we're gonna add, then we're gonna delete that path. It's probably a better way to do this. And then we can start to check back, see kind of, you can see my lines were a little bit thinner before. We are going to be using those, but that's okay. So you can also, if you don't like the pen tool and you want to just use your brush, you can also just click and hold down shift and go up and out, 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 up. Like however you want to do this, like you're just kind of making these black lines. So that does look pretty good. That's pretty cool, actually. I like so we can go brush tool up, and I'm just holding down shift to make these perfectly straight lines up to the knee. We'll just go to there. And then we'll go back to the pen tool to keep carrying on with that. And again, so we're just clicking and arching it out over the leg. And then we're stroking the path, click OK. We don't need that anymore once it's made. And then we will make some knee circles. See, getting that shape. That is horrible. I'm gonna restart on that. I had this so perfect before. Okay. There we go. I need to get better at drawing my circles. Pretty good. So I swear I did all of those before with the pen tool. Okay, we are going to stroke path and okay, and then delete the path. Nice long way of doing this. That's so bad. I swear I did it much better last time. I know you guys will trust me. Okay, so then we'll come up again and just start to create some different lines. So this is what really like took me so long. I was just going over everything, kind of coming up and starting at different points. We can delete that and going over like my shoulder and down all the way to my arm and doing my hand. I did up across my face. And so this was the final result. And all of this was done in just a set of lines and circles and kind of seeing like where would the body have these lines if it was real, and where would these different areas like separate. And so you can see I kind of had a little bit of it, got a little all over the place in here, adding these circles into the hands. And then I came up and just brushed out some areas or erased out some areas that I didn't want. But overall, I was really happy with these lines. So I didn't want to do the full set again from scratch, but you get the idea of how you can do this at home and how it would work. Okay. So now we are going to just double click on the black lines. And we want to add in some different blending options here. And let's see. So we want to do a gradient overlay. We're going to start with that. And then we want to kind of pick this blue color again. So creating the gradient based on whatever color you want that glow to be. If you wanted it to be, I mean, green would be sweet too. Like, that's awesome. We could definitely do that. I don't know. Now I'm tempted. The green is sweet. But because I have everything already edited with the blue, we'll go with that. We could change it later. And maybe if you all like the green, we'll have to play with that in next episode and do some different glow with green. I don't know. Lately, I've been really into green, even though I haven't been posting anything on Instagram. I've been doing everything in blue and pink. My mind is telling me green, go green. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We can play around with the look of our gradient, whether we want to have it more, more blue. Oh, okay, there, I was still in the color picker. More blue or more white. And I'm kind of just paying attention to where this is falling within the lines. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to add our glow, but that is pretty good. I think just the middle point is perfect. You can play around with this too. Go in and try out some of the presets that are already in here from Photoshop. They're really nice. Lots of cool things, whether you're doing it in this aspect and applying it to something, or whether you're putting it in as an overlay. We got into some fun gradients last week, and then also I have been working on something with this gradient, which I think is really cool. So stay tuned for that. We could do something. Man, that looks sweet too. I'm loving it. That's awesome. Okay. That will have to be for another time. Let's just go back to our basic here, and we just want our blue again and our white. Actually, yes. This one. Okay. I shouldn't have strayed away from it because I knew I liked that. So that is good. A little bit darker. Now I'm getting picky. Okay, so now we want to go, we have our gradient overlay. So now we want to start to add like a little bit of a drop shadow, inner shadow, play around with that. So let's do inner shadow first. And we're trying to create this sense of depth within the arms. Okay, so we're gonna just see. We don't need too much distance. Like 1, 2 maybe. And not too much size. Let's try 3. That looks pretty good. We can play around with different modes. I think multiply is good. And you can see we're starting to create depth. That looks really nice. I just kind of like to play around with this to see what looks good. And then changing out the contour too can give you a totally different look. So this is just regular. And then this is a little swoopy one. And I think that one looks best. You get like a really nice effect down here in the hand. I think also it's creating a little bit harder of an edge, which I think looks good in this case. So we'll click OK. Oh, wait, I forgot to add one thing. I wanted to add a little bit of a glow. So you may have seen last week, I talked about outer glow versus drop shadow a little bit. And I mean, that looks so sweet. I love it. Anything with a glow excuse me, you can use the outer glow to add any bit of your glow if you want. However, you can't control the outer glow as much. I like that with drop shadow, you can add distance. You can also add additional ones. We have this little plus icon, meaning you can continue to layer them on top of each other. So when you're creating glow in different ways, that's the best way to do it. Okay, so let me just reset because I was using that for something else. And we want to make this nice and blue. And we don't want any distance on here. I always like automatically go for that because that's what I tend to just play with the most. But we don't want multiply either. We're going to put this on screen and bring that up and just kind of spread that out a little. So that is really cool. You can see here it's without it and here's with it. And then here's without our inner shadow and with it. So it does tone it down a little, but I definitely think you need that to give it some more of the depth to show that it's like within the body. All right, so click OK. And now we're going to get into our glow painting. And let's see. So this was definitely a part of it that takes a lot of time. This whole thing, I'm like, this takes time. This takes time. The whole thing does take a lot of time to make it look really good. So I'm going to continue to kind of add on after I show you what I did. But the more time, anytime you're doing glow, anytime you're doing any sort of compositing, the more you just really like move slowly with it, the better the results are going to be, especially in this like slow layering technique. So we'll again put our flow down. We want to make sure we bring the hardness of our brush down from last time, and then we'll zoom in. And we need to make sure that we are not on normal blending mode. So we'll go to color dodge and transparency shapes layers. So now you can see we get that nice like glow. If we turn the transparency shapes layers off, I'll show you what happens. Oh, now it's not doing anything. What if beta has changed it? Okay, well, there we go. There we go. Okay. So when it's on, it looks like that. When you turn it off, it looks like glow. Okay, that was weird. It glitched a little, but we're good. All right. So we're going to just start to paint in these areas where I want to go a little greener here. These lines would be kind of like reflecting off the sand. And this is where you just start to paint. And maybe it's like kind of reflecting down here because it's going into the shoe and creating like a little bit of glow there. And then, so I added all these different layers because each one kind of has a different purpose to me. So whenever I paint glow, I kind of start with one thing in mind and then go and do another layer with another thing in mind. So for example, I would say, okay, this layer is everything that is starting to touch the ground, and it's starting to create sand glow or reflection glow, whatever you want to call it. And you never know, there could be some glow coming from under the dress here. Could start to create that. So, and then, we could be really smart about it and name it. And it's sand glow. And then we will do a new layer and see, I want that a little lighter. Do a new layer for the other things. You could just go along. This is going to be the ASMR part where we just have a nice time and relax and listen to the music, and everything starts to look so cool. And a little under here. And then we can also blur this too. If we start to zoom out and be like, oh, it's looking too splotchy, but this is kind of good because we want to start to do that. And then we would just add another layer again and kind of doing this similar method to what we did in the beginning, but now being much more refined about it. So then starting to paint over on the skin and getting those areas around our little glow spots. So this is really cool because the more you kind of decide and are intentional about this, the more you can start to create some total realism here. Like, how would this be glowing from within the kneecap? Like, would it be coming down? And this is a good chance to kind of study light and look at how things come out of areas that are lit up. Like, it kind of, I have a pretty big brush here, but if you're on a tablet, you could start to like fully paint that edge in and kind of have it coming down here a little, but then maybe you would have a little up here. And so this is kind of my favorite part of figuring out where is that light coming from, especially in these sci-fi images, and just kind of working it around. And then you move up here and, maybe it's coming down from the head or coming up from the body, like moving up. I don't know. You could tell a whole story with this. Kind of cool. Working on the eye a little bit. Doing something crazy, creepy. Whatever we want. Okay. That's looking really cool. I like the way the knee is looking, and then just continue to refine that. And you can go in with your eraser tool too. If you're like, oh, that's a little too much, I want to tone it down. And using a low flow on that too, we can just kind of brush it out a little bit. And then even on the sand glow, if we wanted to just kind of tone it back a little bit. So using a pairing of eraser and brush tool is going to give you a really realistic look. So I'm just going to turn those off real quick and then show you. So here was a little bit of adding in where it was touching the sand, continuing on with the dress and the arm up here. And then a little bit more there. You can see I spent a lot of time down here working on this area. It could be kind of toned back a little bit, maybe. We could even come in and just erase that, so it's not as intense. And then that's a good, nice glow there, like that. It's like so cool to go back and see these little areas and be like, oh yeah, working on that. Just refining this. And then I added even more, and a little bit of pink in here. So you can make your color dodge any color that you want, doesn't matter. And then lastly, a little bit of all over glow. I don't know if I still like that, but let's see. Yeah, let's not do that for now. Okay, so even though I added these layers after the fact, I'm showing you kind of what I did off screen. This is the exact process, and I didn't want to bore you with continuing to repeat it, but you just, every single layer, you're just painting a little bit, and then continuing to erase areas that are too much. So maybe even that's too much at this point. And then I added a little bit for the UFOs coming down from here, and then we can go back and we can just clean up our curves if we want to, especially now that we know where that light is falling, and our color balance, if we need to fix that at all, and the darken color balance as well. Let's see. So that one's pretty good. Our lighten is fairly good. You can see how much that helps. And then maybe this one we just tweak a little bit. So that is the beauty of this, just being able to continue to change it. Maybe darken a little, lighten a little there. Painting and having fun. Okay. That's good. We get the idea. Okay. So now let's see. Here was the one I did the other night. I definitely, you can tell I went very blue with it. And here's where we're at right now. So that's really good. I think we actually got closer to the original this time than I did the other night with the slow painting. And I don't know. Do we want that? Do we not? I think that's pretty good. Let's just add it in for now. So now we are going to go Command Shift Option E, merge everything together to get our final color look. And we're going to convert that to a smart object so we can edit it. You probably saw me do this last week and many times before when I have done it, because it's just a great way to add your final color in. And we're going to kind of play around with this too. So we have a fairly good look here, but we want to just finish it off. And this is where we can add in something crazy if we want. Like I kept thinking about these greens. Like I said, you know, we could make this a little like radioactive image or something. But I think many times you want to kind of have your color choice decided from the beginning so that you're not like kind of putting a filter on top of everything. Like this looks like a filter. Let's see. We want to bring that down a little and bring our highlights up, maybe our shadows, just kind of playing around with this, getting it all adjusted. On this one, we can get into color mixer a little bit more and really tweak these blues. Do we want to do anything with magentas? I don't know. I think there's like a little bit of weirdness in here from the way I did the curves, just kind of the way I brushed it. So you start to really notice that too when you add in your final color. You start to notice those areas where you may have made mistakes. And then you can go back and fix it if you need to. But this glow is looking super cool. Okay, so then calibration, we'll do that first, like last time, just to kind of decide our colors, zoom out a little bit here. And I kind of like this more green primary, bringing it up in the hue. We don't want to go too far. You start to get banding and then it looks weird. But we can do a little bit there. Trying to don't want to lose that. And so, and we're going to tone this down a little bit too. I know it looks a lot right now. It's a little over the top, but that's good. Over the top is quite fun. Okay. And our shadows, giving them kind of like a darker, bluer look and going a little darker, not too much. Again, as I said last week, like I really like to push everything to the extreme to see what it looks like, pulling the slider all the way. I usually know how far I need to go, but that's how I always discover new things, new looks, something different. Okay, and now, no, I don't want brush. I'm going to just do a radial gradient first, draw that around the center and invert it. And then bring it kind of up here. I'm not doing too much there, just a little touch. And then we can brush a little bit kind of to do the final color. So we can add in a little bit of brightness. And then I'm feeling like now I don't actually like the reflecting of the UFOs. I don't know. It needs to be played with and stretched out a little bit more, tweaked a little bit. And then let's just add another brush and darken back here. Ooh, that could be cool to kind of actually add some pink in there, a little magenta. I don't know, just kind of playing around. And then we can toggle this here to see our before and after so we know whether we're going to like it or not. did get some banding in here, so we might need to fix that. And we will just keep brushing. See. So that's our before, that's our after. Getting a little wild. Love it though. We're getting close to the end here. About 10 minutes left. We're just going to wrap this up, do a couple little fun generative fill things. And let's see, where did that banding come from? I think it was in here somewhere. That's pretty good. Okay, so there's before camera raw. Let me zoom in. And here's after. We can also, sometimes what I like to do is, you could add a blending mode to this if you wanted. Like that looks pretty intense. We might not want to do that. You could also play around with the fill and opacity if you felt like you did too much. That's really a good way to kind of tone it down a little bit. For this, we'll just keep it 100%. And yeah, like look at the difference of what I did before, and then this was last year's or 2 years ago whenever I did it. So this is now and last year. You can see I went a little ham with the glow today, but that's okay. I am kind of now missing in this one. I'm missing like the warmth that I had before. I think that was really nice, and we got a little bit weird in that cloud there, but that's okay. All right. So then lastly, one thing I wanted to do was just have a little fun with generative fill. And we are just going to add in a ponytail. So let's kind of just draw out the hair from here, like as if it's laying on the ground. We'll see what happens. I've done this now like 10 times on the hair, so I'm hoping it will work this time too. And we just type in hair. And we'll have a little water break while that runs. Cool. I dig it. Okay. So it gave 3 options here. And I really kind of like that one with it's like the lines carry through. And I think it just adds such a cool element to it. It's like, yeah, I mean, that one looks pretty good too. I don't know. Always hard to decide with the generative film. Like, which do I like? Here's what I did last night. I really like the way, let me make sure I'm on the right layer. I really like the way it's kind of like spilling out in this one. And then I did it again on last year's image. And I love this one the most. I think that's super cool because it kind of looks like it has the little fibers in the hair where it's like, oh, I have a little bit of glow running through. I wish my hair could look like that in real life. That'd be pretty sweet. So this one's cool too. It's like more of a hair wrap, but yeah. Anyways, so then I kind of was having fun with this before where I made my dress longer. So it's like, maybe it's a little short. Let's add in a little bit more dress. So we're just gonna extend this here and come down. And then we'll see if, again, you never know. Doing it live. Purple dress. Generate. Have another waiting sesh. Amazing. Like, oh my God. It's so beyond good. Like, I have no words. Goodbye. I'm done. This is amazing. So it's catching not only is it catching the reflections from up here, it is adding the wrinkles. Like any of these could work. It gets a little weird down here on this one. That one's really good. That one's really good. Let's see. I'm just always kind of like analyzing all of them. But then you can go in and tweak that further too if you wanted to. So this one's amazing. And I mean, what is so great is it also got all of our coloring. So, like you can see it has the glow that we painted. So it's perfectly matched. And it did a good job of not covering up the knees either. It got a little bit weird, but that is amazing. Okay, so let's see. Right. Yes. So that is about it on this image. There is not much left that we have to do. We could try generating some other things back here in the background. Um, let's see. I want to just see if we actually add in some different colors. Let's experiment with that a little bit now that we've reached the end of this image. I just was double checking to make sure that we have everything in our image that I wanted to show you. And then let's just have some fun with it and get a little funky. I know we had also talked about curves and adjusting the color that way. So how about we play around with that? So let me just turn this one off. We'll go to the one we did. And then let's say maybe we wanted to add curves on top of this. I'm just thinking here as we go along. It could look a little weird. I wouldn't do this after I've done camera raw, but for the sake of teaching and demoing this exactly how I would do this on this image, we'll just open that up. So you could also do some final coloring tweaks here for brightness and darkness. I also showed last week, this was really fun. Like this is something that my friend Magdiel Lopez does, where he takes the curves up so crazy and then totally does something that you wouldn't normally do. So we get an entirely different look here with that. And then we could kind of like, so fun. We could get this like iridescent look. I mean, we could even, let's see. I might go back to that. I'm getting distracted. Okay, so we could do something funky like that, or if you just wanted to do a kind of adjustment, whether it's your final or along the way, coming into your red, green, and blue color channels and then fixing these areas that we lost. Like I did say I wanted to bring some of that pink back in. That's really cool. Bringing that. And then we had talked about making everything green. So we could put in some different points here. It's like it starts to get too contrasty as you add too much. But like I said, I'm just kind of experimenting here to see what kind of direction we could go in to change this and make it like a fully different image. And then excuse me. With blue, I don't know. I mean, this is so cool. So many different things. And yeah. So let me just bring that back. And one thing I kind of thought would be fun. Adjusting here. Okay, so let's say we take this and do something crazy. Like how could we bring this back into somewhat of normal, right? As we finish things up here, like maybe we just want me to be like that. So why don't we do that? Let's invert it. And then we could select subject. No, it's going to get all the glow too. So we will just paint this in. I need to make sure I am painting with white. And maybe we'll bring the flow up a little bit. So that's super cool. I think that kind of gives you a way of getting like what's it called, like vapor wave look really easily. I know a lot of people are like, how do I achieve that look? How do I add something like super crazy, or the retro look that we did last week or whenever it was? Like, these are some fun ways to go about doing that. Maybe you wouldn't go down onto the legs. Maybe it would just be like a little bit as if it's like kind of coming into the body, into the dress. We need to add in a spaceship to this. And now we're right on the brink of time where we don't have enough time. I should have thought of that. That would be really fun. Because now I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, yeah, we definitely need a spaceship back here. We could generate fill one. Don't know what we're going to get, but that's about all we have time for today. So let me just remove that so it doesn't look crazy. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and for joining me on this Magic in Photoshop episode. And I will see you next time. Stay tuned for something really exciting that we will be learning here inside Photoshop Beta. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.